Hi, and welcome to the Selling in the Motor Trade podcast in association with CarWow, the online car-changing destination. Together, we share tips and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your department, dealership, or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bokert, or some of you might already know me as Skippy. Firstly, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Selling in the Motor Trade. Today, I'm joined by Chris Cormier. Now, Chris is the head of sales of Mercedes-Benz Brooklands, and I'm so keen to talk to him about Mercedes-Benz Brooklands because it's such an iconic site, and I want to know lots about how he manages it and his leadership style. So, Chris, welcome aboard.
Hey, how you doing, Skippy? You okay?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Very good. So, listen, for those unfamiliar with your journey, can you go back to the beginning and tell us a little bit about how did you get started in the motor trade and what steps led you to be the role of head of sales at Mercedes Brooklands?
Well, it all started in South Wales, where I grew up, actually. My stepdad was a lorry driver, and he basically got me a position during work experience at a local Mercedes-Benz commercial vehicle depot.
Right.
And it was from that led to me having an apprenticeship with them when I left school. Did the apprenticeship with them, left.
On the tools. Were you on the tools?
Yeah. I was
Great.
fixing lorries and vans, and I was there when they launched the first Star diagnostic machine.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good time. It was a really good time, actually, but didn't get paid so well back then. But it was a good time to be learning when mechanics were still probably mechanics, less computers involved.
Yeah.
But I was just starting to see the birth of that. And then I moved from South Wales to Bromley with some friends, and I've never been back. Really, that's the point. So got a job as a service advisor with Mercedes-Benz in Crystal Palace. Did that for a couple of years, and then diverged into sales with Audi, where I stayed for 12 years with Audi as a brand at various sites. A short stint with Land Rover as a GSM for them, and then into the world of training and development, where I worked with a few good agencies on some really exciting global projects, global training for Mercedes-Benz, a really good JLR project for their SVO specialist. And then, of course, COVID came and killed that classroom environment.
Overnight. Yes,
for
overnight.
Consultants like me. And what was a really busy diary went to nothing really very, very quickly. And that's, well, you know what it's like being self-employed. I was in the bracket of people that got no help from the government. So
Yep.
Mortgage to pay, family support. We did a bit of work through that period. I did some bits with Porsche Retail Group, which was really welcome. And some bits moving the Mercedes training from the classroom to online in their Adobe system.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put myself up for sale on LinkedIn, actually. I put myself up for sale like a car advert. And it garnered quite a lot of attention. And one of my old colleagues, a guy called Martin Walsh, got in touch with me and just said, look, what are you up to? We've got a job as a GSM back at BMW in Ruxley, and that the rest was history. COVID ended and I came back into the fold.
Wow. Okay. So back into the fold there. So listen, lots of premium brands there. You've got Audi, JLR there, BMW, now Mercedes. How have those various experiences across the different brands, has that influenced the way that you lead a sales team today? It's all prestige there, really, isn't it?
Yeah, do you know, I think that working for different brands gives you perspective, and you learn probably pieces of information that you wouldn't ordinarily get to learn if you weren't working for them directly.
Mm-hmm.
Product information. So when you're valuing a car, maybe a certain Land Rover or a certain Audi or a product that I've worked with before, maybe I know or remember something that's relevant or poignant. But also working in that development area, that gave me a different perspective actually of how the brands operate and the various stakeholders and their requirements. So yeah, I think it's given me a slightly wider appreciation.
Okay. Now, listen, this podcast goes out to people in Australia, America, Ireland. There'll be people who listen here won't understand the iconic nature, sorry, I should say, of Brooklands. Firstly, can you kind of explain a little bit about Brooklands Mercedes-Benz, Mercedes-Benz World on site, and also, does that create any extra pressure for you and your sales team in that environment?
Uh, I'd say yes.
Yes.
So
How do you
it's a
describe it first? How do you describe this site? It's got so much heritage.
well, once you've beaten your way through the A3 traffic and
Yes.
sort of get the approach to the business, the first thing you're welcomed by is a very long straight road called Brooklands Drive, which leads down to the building. It looks like you're in Germany because it's a massive building. There's a spinning star on the roof, and either side of you are test tracks and skid areas and off-road areas. So it's a fairly impressive place to arrive at. It was opened in 2006, I think, from memory, as a brand experience centre. And then there are 3 floors. We've got history and heritage cars here, Formula One sections, a whole simulator zone. We've got 2 cafes, driving experiences on road and off road. You know, everybody that buys an AMG gets a free day here driving an equivalent car with one of our pro drivers. It's a phenomenal place to come and work. And my first experience with it really was when I was doing the training, and I used to come here once a week on a Tuesday and have 24 new Mercedes-Benz employees who would spend the morning with me learning about the brand and its history and its heritage.
Mhm.
And then they'd go and drive in the afternoon before a final recap, and that was their sort of welcome to Mercedes-Benz, if you like.
Yeah. Okay. So listen, Pristine Brands is definitely where you are. How do you keep your team's standards consistently high? Because that in that environment there, people are expecting the standards to be the creme de la creme, aren't they? How do you keep your team's standards consistently high?
Yeah, it's here is a really challenging place because the just driving down the drive definitely creates an expectation that you wouldn't get driving into an ordinary retailer.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, it's known as Mercedes-Benz World, so it sort of feels like the expectations are really high.
Mm.
Um, for me, it's the same everywhere. I like to be really clear about what expectations are. I like to model the behaviours. So, you know, I'm a great believer that there's an on stage and an off stage of the automotive industry, and there has to be a kind of safe area where people can talk freely and let their hair down and blow some steam off. But when you walk through the door and you're in the environment where the customers are, everybody's got to be polished, everybody's got to be on show, and I
Showtime.
think just having like no tolerance for not adapting those behaviours as well. So I'm a great believer of what you tolerate, you condone.
Mm.
So if you're willing to let things slip by, then you're accepting it by nature. And so it's about having my view of that premium behaviour guide, if you like, really ingrained into the manager team that I've got beneath me or alongside me. And so everybody's out there monitoring it all the time. Everybody's out there making sure that everybody's doing what they should be doing. And what I always find is once you get a team to be self-feeding, so when you hear a salesperson give another salesperson some feedback about something like this,
Mm.
you've won. That, you know, once it becomes self-feeding, that's the moment of where it really starts to avalanche in the direction that you want.
I love that approach. Listen, you said what you tolerate, you condone. Okay, so what are your non-negotiables in your sales culture then?
I don't know if I don't know if it's going to be a universally accepted answer, this to be honest, but because I've got some time in training and
Mhm.
development, and I take it really, really seriously, especially with the team we've got wherever I happen to be working at any given moment. All I think I can ask of the team is to put effort in. They've got to be up for having a go and trying. They've got to be accountable for the things that they do and the results they generate, and they've got to have some humility about them, because it's a tough place to work. And I really mean it when I say everything else is my responsibility. So skills, processes, toolkits, how-tos. If somebody has given effort, is accountable, and has a bit of humility about them, and they're still failing, it's probably my fault, not theirs, or our management team's fault. So those are the three real non-negotiables for me.
Okay. So is there anyone who influenced your leadership style in the motor trade or outside? But you've been in the motor trade all your life, but it could be someone from a coach or something like that. Anyone stand out in your mind, Chris?
I don't want this to sound like a like an Oscar acceptance speech, but there are there are five. There are five really standout people for me that I'd mention. First one would be a chap called Toby Burton. So Toby Burton is currently the head of business at Hailsham BMW, and I worked with him when I was at Cordy Audi. Toby gave me lots of opportunity, and I think I learned from Toby, you know, the ability to be optimistic in the face of challenge, to have a bit of belief that things were possible, and he really accelerated my career from being a sales exec through to a sales manager. I'd mentioned Ryan O'Sullivan, who was my last head of business at BMW. Ryan had a real, I don't know, a method of being calm and collected in all circumstances, irrelevant of how bad the news might be. He just really remained very, very level. Martin Walsh, who was the head of sales for the BMW division, and still is, to be fair. He's a real mentor, personally and professionally. A really good character. And Martin, if anyone's ever worked with him, you know, he's an incredible guy. He can handle pretty much any situation very, very, very well. And he did a law degree a few years ago, so he really understands the fairness of the world, if you like. He understands how to get people from A to B when there's a complaint or a problem, and he does it brilliantly. Rich Dennis, my current CEO, he's a really good aspirational leader who I look up to and I respect, and I really enjoy working for. He allows me a lot of free space to do what I think is right or necessary. But what I've learned from Richard actually is how do you make people fully accountable in the best possible way, like that transfer of responsibility when you realise it is really all on you. And I don't forget, he said to me, if it goes well, Chris, it'll be on you, but if it goes bad, it'll be on you, and both of those would be okay.
Yeah,
just sort of overwhelming sense of responsibility, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then finally, I'd say a lady called Wendy Harbut, who was an executive coach who I worked with on the BMW Head of Business program. And Wendy was exceptional, actually, and she, through a series of coaching calls, sort of had managed to get from me that I'd done a lot of reading and personal development in terms of leadership and management and getting the best out of people. And yeah, she said, you know, stop reading, Chris. Stop taking any more in, and start doing what you already know about. So you know now stop. And the final lesson from her was, she said, how would you describe your attitude? And I said, well, I've got a really good attitude. I'm pretty positive all the time. And she said, what about when things are hard? Does that attitude ever wane? And I was like, well, yeah, of course.
We're human. Yeah.
And she said, so do you think it'd be a good idea to choose your attitude for each individual environment that you know you're going to walk into? And that was a big wow moment for me. I was like, wow, okay. Like I could be really conscious and deliberate about, I'm going to walk into this meeting or this session or this environment, and I'm going to, before I walk in, go, right, choose your attitude. Who are you going to be for these people? What do they need you to be?
I'm interested to get her view on stop reading, because we're both trainers, and I'm addicted to picking up a latest management book, and I listen to podcasts and whatever. And I suppose she's right. Okay, should stop reading and put it into place, because everyone's got a slightly different thing. And did you take her advice, or do you still read? Do you still stop reading?
I'm still reading.
I kind of get the point she's taking there.
But yeah, you know, it's fun, isn't it? I didn't really read a lot at all before COVID, actually, and I got into some podcasts. Some of the guys from the SS Who Dares Wins series.
Yeah.
So Justin Fox, in particular, had an adventure.
Yeah.
Wild Tales. We sort of talk to adventurers and things, and I quite like that kind of activities and that lifestyle out of work. That's what I get up to. So I really related to that, and then read their books. And then that led to Mark Manson and the subtle art of not,
Yeah, giving a we can say that on this podcast. It's fine.
yeah,
Okay, I'm sure people listen to it knows the F word.
yeah, and then many more books actually, and they've all got a perspective, haven't they? And I think what Wendy's point was actually it probably wasn't to stop reading. It was
Yeah.
you're not putting enough of it into practice with yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
I'm guilty of that. It is. It's we all are, aren't we?
I think so.
Too much theory. Just put it in place now. Yeah, I love that. So listen, with all these people there, lots of mentors, okay, lots of reading, as we said there. If we were to ask your sales team, though, to describe your leadership style in just one word, what do you think it would be, or what would you hope it would be?
Well, I'd hope it would be fair, actually.
Okay.
I'd like them to. I'd like it, one of the bits that we did with Wendy. One of the bits of work we did was, and it was really powerful, was to reflect on the type of leadership that we had appreciated when we were coming through as managers. And then once we identified that, it was how do you become that leader? Because it worked for you. And I would say of all of those that I've mentioned, fairness is a real key factor. Fairness and calmness, actually. So I think I'd like my sales team to say that the sales team knew that I was fair and calm.
Mm-hmm.
Am I all the time? There's a job to do and stakeholders to keep pleased, and I feel pretty emotional about getting the job done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try my best. I do try my best.
Yeah, okay. So I want to get into the real nitty gritty now, if I can. Okay. So based on all the books you read, what Wendy said, and what you've learned from lots of those mentors over the time, let's say you got a sales team member who's underperforming. Okay. And you've read enough there. Someone's underperforming. What approach would you have? Okay, and they're underperforming either in, let's say, a technician, or it's a salesperson who's just not making the calls and following up as they should do. How do you approach that conversation? And the reason I ask that is there's going to be lots of people just stepped into that role, and they're going to have John or David who's underperforming, and they go, how do they deal with it? What approach would you take?
I think the first and most important element of being able to talk about performance is that you have an environment and a culture where it's okay to talk about performance. Mm-hmm. So it should be visible. Everybody should have sight of everybody's performance.
Yeah.
I think it should be normal to have a conversation off the cuff if needs be about performance, and I would expect and enjoy it if people were performing the same sort of actions in my direction. I'd want to know straight away if I'd made something wrong or made a mistake. So it's about culture and environment, I think, the first piece. The second,
a safe culture, not to have to hide that performance.
Yeah, because nobody gets it right all the time, and actually everybody's trying their best. If you kind of assume that that's the case, and most people, if they're getting it wrong, they might not even know why themselves. So it's probably not deliberate. And they probably don't want to be underperforming. So if it's an attack or it feels like a ridicule, you probably won't get much response out of the individual, I don't think.
Yeah.
So it's got to be open. We've got to talk about performance regularly. And I like the model where, our behaviours and actions generate consequences, and our consequences then either reinforce or break up our beliefs. And then those beliefs drive our behaviours and actions. So you've got that triangle of behaviour and consequence and belief. And you've got to decide where you're going to get on. So is someone underperforming because they don't know how?
Yeah.
Is it because they haven't been trained? Is it because something's going on for them that's holding them back at the minute? Has something changed? You've got to really be careful about where you interject, I think. And then I'd just say always base any feedback on really accurate information and data. Giving feedback's a real privilege, I think. So you should take great care with it because you can make and break people with what you say. And then it's about, and definitely avoiding any sort of character. It can never be about the character. It can only be about what the character's doing, the actions and the behaviours, because they're adaptable and learnable.
So
That's
true.
what I think.
Gavin Hyde's a great friend of the show, runs the Joe Duffy group in Ireland. He summed up in a different way what you said, always resonates with me. He said, I like the singer, but we don't like the song. We love the singer. It's just the
Yeah,
song we didn't like. And it's
exactly
just,
that.
it's not a character assassination. It's not you. It's what you've done that we're not quite happy with that one there. Come on, you're better than that. Okay. I still love the band. Okay. We still love whoever you like, Taylor Swift or whoever you want to go for. But that latest song wasn't my favorite one.
It's a
Um,
really good way of putting it. That actually, it's a really good, neat
yeah.
way of saying what I just said. Yeah, yeah.
It is. I love that. Okay. So actually, that brings me on to hiring people. So when you're hiring someone, what do you look for when you're hiring someone in the sales department? Just beyond the CV, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Especially in sales, actually, because I think most of the people that we interview by default are pretty good at selling themselves.
You'd hope so.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
kind of the job. And believing that it's possible to give people skills that will enable them to do the job well once they land. It's that old thing, isn't it? Hire for attitude, not for
Mm.
skills. And I'd expand on that. There was a great book that I read mid COVID called The Attributes by a guy called Richard
I
Divini.
don't know that one.
It's a
Okay.
really good book. So Richard Divini was he's an American. He was in the Navy SEALs basically,
Hmm.
and he was after he was in the Navy SEALs, he became the head of the selection team, if you like. So his job was to build the assessment process. And if you read anything to do with them, it's not about being the strongest, the fastest, the best shot, the biggest, the toughest, the most muscles. It's about the mindset, and they talk about the grey man and all that kind of stuff. But what
Sorry,
his
the
book
grey
spoke,
man.
the grey man, yeah. So like the sort of not obvious, someone that
Okay.
fades into the background, someone that is
Okay.
really strong mentally, but maybe not so obvious on the outside.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And I really subscribe to that. It's being the last person to speak and being the quietest in the room. I quite like doing that stuff. But what his book focuses on is attributes. And attributes might be attributes are innate, they're in us, we're born with them, they're there, and we kind of dial them up and down
Hmm.
as we need to throughout our lives. And the premise of the book is that skills inform your behavior in a known situation where you know what to do, and attributes inform your behavior when you're in a situation that you're unfamiliar with and you don't know what to do. So it's who you are really in the middle. And attributes would be things like perseverance. You can't learn perseverance, adaptability, discipline, integrity, those kinds of things. And he goes through them in the book, how they applied it in Navy SEALs, but he sort of switches it into how
So,
can you
so
apply
is he?
it in the business world.
Sorry to cut you off there, but he's saying discipline. That's something that can't be learned. That's innate in you, or you can
Yeah, so
work
it's
on it.
it's an attribute. So being
Mm.
disciplined, you can become more disciplined if you want to, but
Yeah.
you
Okay.
can't teach someone discipline per se.
Yeah.
It's not a skill.
Self-discipline. Yeah.
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 And he really breaks it down to he even talks about narcissism in the book about that actually narcissism
Hmm.
is your desire to be recognized for what you do well. Now, clearly, too much narcissism doesn't manifest itself well, but
Yeah.
we've all got a bit in us, and so there's it's a really I implore you to read it. It's a really
Yeah.
good it's a
Oh,
good read. It's an easy read, and so for me, when I'm recruiting, I like to focus on those bits really, the
mm,
bits that you can't train or teach somebody.
mm.
But will they have perseverance? Will they be up for it when it gets difficult? Can they give me an
Yep.
example of a time when they've worked hard through a challenging moment and stayed with
Mm.
the task? And yeah, so that's kind of what I look for.
Yeah, I love the idea of discipline because that self-discipline, okay, when it is Sunday afternoon, you're on late, everyone you spoke to all week's turned to shite, and you go out and be motivated, enthusiastic. We've all seen salespeople walk the other way, okay? When you got with your diary system, whatever it is, Inquiry Max or CDK or Dealer Web, it comes up there, and it's like making that next call. You've got to be disciplined in this job to do that and not take the easy path sometimes.
Yeah, discipline's it's discipline and motivation.
Mm,
They're often confused, I think,
yeah,
actually, because
yes,
a bit of discipline is what gets you going in the first place.
yep,
Motivation often follows. Um, so I think it's about starting, isn't it? But if you're waiting to be motivated, I
yep,
always say when we were training, I'd always say if being motivated is quite extrinsic, isn't it? Like you got to have some money, or you got to have a reward, or you're relying on someone else to do it for you. Whereas discipline is a real
internal.
internal. You're in control of it. You can do it.
Yep. It's when that alarm goes off at 6 in the morning. Do you roll out of bed because I'm going to go and get on the treadmill before I go to work or not? That's that self-discipline, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with this in mind, then, how do you personally measure your success as a leader? Is it not just the sales board? What is success for you?
I really take some pride in developing the people around me. That's a real win for me is when I see them winning.
Is that
Um,
that trainer consultancy background still coming out?
I
Because that's
think,
why we do what we do, right? We love it when people say, I've tried that and it's worked, and it's like I'm now running this business.
yeah, I really enjoy, like really enjoy seeing that moment when something just clicks with someone, or a
Mm.
new skill or a new ability, or they
Yep.
suddenly get something. You know, we did a project at the Ruxley BMW where we kind of moved away from the traditional sales role, and we employed a group of people eight of them actually, that had never worked in the industry before. We did it in
Mm.
one go, the whole team, one go. And I won't lie, the first 12 months of that was a really, really difficult period of work.
Wow. You would have
Real
been.
low experience, low levels of knowledge, high expectation customers and product.
Mhm.
But watching those guys grow, watching them develop, watching them click and get the different roles that they were doing was just the most satisfying thing I've ever been a part of actually in my career. It was phenomenal. Um,
Where
and
did you,
so,
sorry, can I ask you about that? That fascinates me. Where did you recruit these people from? Because I always love the idea of not just having the 2 year guy that's been 2 years here, 2 years there, 2 years there, selling, selling, selling without any development. I'm thinking, hold on, that's not what we want. And we would always say, grow your own. But we're always often people are growing their own within a sales team that's already there. Does that make sense? So
yeah,
much they're learning from their other people, not just you, but having eight all in one hit. Did you look for graduates? Did you want to make sure they're smart enough? What did you do?
looked for the attributes. So we looked for people
Yeah.
that were willing to put some effort in, some people
Mm,
that could communicate well, um, some people that were clearly up for a challenge, some people that were willing to receive feedback and learn, people that were, good people, good humans is how I describe them. You know, you want to look in the room at your team and go, I can take this on. It's okay. Let's go. And so we started in, I think it was January 2021. I
okay.
want to say from memory. Don't quote me on that.
I'm just thinking COVID times, everything. That's after COVID, of course, yes.
Yeah,
And we're still that was the heydays though. We didn't have enough stock.
that's it.
Some
So timing was everything, wasn't it? Because the
yeah, yeah,
marketplace allowed us
yep,
to do that
mm,
experiment. It wasn't an experiment, but that project.
yeah,
And it didn't go. It was really hard. It didn't go well at first. You know, it was really challenging. There was a lot of demand, as you know. There was not enough
mm,
stock.
mm.
There were the industry was getting going again. I suppose it was starting to get some traction about itself. And we had these new guys that really didn't know. I remember one of the girls on the second day there. She said, well, "What's a trade plate?" And I was
Wow.
like, "Wow, here we go."
Yeah, you,
But look,
you would never even thought that. I've never on a training course ever had to teach someone what a trade plate is. But of course, it's not her fault. How would she know?
no, exactly. I had a good team of managers, so we had four retail managers there with myself.
Those
They were,
four guys, you guys must have been running that whole place for 12 months.
well, it was all us for the first three,
Okay.
with the new guys helping,
Yep.
and then naturally those sort of the doing
Mm,
transferred as the competencies built.
mm.
And then once we'd had a year and it was sort of running, we were able to then go, right, how do we tune it? How do we fine tune what we're doing and get better? And then we disciplined the retail managers out into kind of a front end of the process of the sales funnel and a back end of it. So getting the job done and making sure it all went out and got delivered well. And that's pretty much how they operate there now to this day. Although, so I moved out and came to Mercedes-Benz Brooklands in February this year. They still operate. They haven't replaced me. The same 4 guys still do it there. I think Will has now been promoted to used car manager, and Nathan is a new car manager. So they've sort of shared out what my responsibilities were amongst themselves. And the site's getting a refit, so they'll be opening hopefully in the next few weeks, maybe a month or so from now, with a brand new BMW showroom.
Chris, of those original 8, how many are still, well, 2 questions, employed in the motor trade and employed there? Have some people just bailed out and thought selling cars not for me? I've gone off to be, I don't know, estate agent, teacher, blah, blah, blah. Where are those original 8?
So at least 3 or 4 of them are still there.
Wow. Okay. Looking at staff turnover in the motor trade, that is.
Yeah. So you've got Danny, Carl, and Chloe are definitely still there. I know a couple of others have gone off into other jobs. So Caitlin went to work for Audi, and Eugenie still works somewhere in a private business somewhere, I think, not a main dealer. Okay. So most of them are still amongst it, I think. But we didn't, we got that team to a point, and of course there was some turnover. And then we added more to it. Actually, we got more new young people coming into that team. A young lady called Molly that does the handovers there for used cars. Clive was a used car progressor and made his way into the sales team. Took the opportunity where we just went, look, he's got the attributes, but he hasn't got the skills yet. Let's give him the skills and see how he goes. So, look, it was a really good project, a good period. And to be fair to the business there, they've just transitioned from their role that we sort of created for them, where they were called purchase advisors, and they've now transitioned to a more traditional sales executive model, because I think the timing is right and the marketplace is in need of that. But it's that ability to adapt again, isn't it? It's that adaptability and ability to pivot when the market needs you to.
Chris, listen, we could talk more and more about this. So listen, I just want to say thank you very much for this. And on the next episode, let's continue to explore these ideas.
I really appreciate the time and the opportunity, Skippy. Thanks for having me on.
That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, simcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bokert through LinkedIn. Thank you.